Hey, I'm Srini, host and founder of the Unmistakable Creative Podcast and the creator of Maximize Your Output with Mem. And in part two of our series on best practices for capturing, organizing, and using your notes in Mem, we're going to talk about how to organize your knowledge in Mem. Now, organizing information in Mem is kind of a paradox because it's a self-organizing workspace. But with these three simple ideas, you'll be able to organize everything very easily. All you have to do is understand what I call the hierarchy of importance for organizing knowledge in a network, which are titles, bidirectional links, and tags. Now, this video might seem a little circular, but I promise if you get to the end of it, you'll understand how this all works. And if you haven't checked it out, be sure to check out our free guide on building a second brain in Mem. I'll include a link in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. What I wanted to do in this video is go through some best practices for organizing your notes in Mem. Last week, I talked about best practices for capturing your notes in Mem. So just to recap, it's to give every note a title, connect new notes to existing notes, take smart notes, and capturing ideas as they occur. So you might be wondering why I'm actually just showing you the exact outline for this tutorial while I'm giving you this tutorial. And that's because I actually thought it exemplified everything that I'm going to talk about in this video. So one of the things that I realized after talking to a lot of people and spending close to 18 months in MEM is that there's somewhat of a paradox to trying to organize information in what is effectively a self-organizing workspace. And so when you first encounter that idea, it feels very chaotic and it seems crazy because there's no other situation in your digital world where you could just throw everything into some space and not have some sort of structure for organizing it and very easily be able to find it. That just creates so much cognitive dissonance because you could never organize Dropbox like that. You couldn't organize Google Drive like that. It's just a very counterintuitive feeling when you encounter this for the first time. But the thing is that you can create a structure that actually requires very little effort and allows your notes to be organized and allows you to effectively find anything that you need and allow you to focus on the content of your notes rather than worrying about how to organize them, how to find them, and all that stuff. I'm going to show you three key ideas and how they work and why they work in terms of organizing. So last week I talked about titles of notes, and you'll see here that I have a title right here, and I basically just started jotting down some thoughts on this video about what would make for a good title. So the first thing is that you want to clearly communicate the content of the note, and ideally you could use it in another sentence. You'll notice here that I actually have done this, and this is something that I wanted to show you, and so this is going to seem very circular as I go through this, and that's because it is. And that I think is really one of the most confusing things about MEM when you first start getting used to this structure. The thing that you'll see here is I basically created this outline. Some of these are notes that are already in the database. They have things in them. As you can see here, this one actually has nothing in it, so that's a good example. This is another one that has nothing in it. Even though I have referenced this quote, the note with nothing in it, probably several times without ever actually creating a note there. But that doesn't matter, is the point here. So you'll see here that when I talked about titles, first, you'll notice that this was a title that I was able to use in this outline to talk about the concepts in this. That's one thing that's hugely important because when you have a good title, it becomes much more linkable to other things. And so you'll see here that while I was doing this, I also had another note to title your notes the way that you title your thoughts. And what you'll notice here is a bunch of empty notes with nothing in them that at some point I'll probably be able to go back to and fill out because I've seen them, I've used them in other things, so I know what sparked the thought process so I can easily put it together. If you think about a title, like it pretty much becomes the, sort of top of the hierarchy of your organizational structure in MEM, because it does everything else. It allows for everything else that you need to do in MEM to happen. And titles are honestly the easiest way to remember things. And so really almost anything else is just an added bonus and it's unnecessary. If you wanted to stop here and you had no intention of connecting your notes together or whatever, you just wanted to be able to dump things in here and find them, then you could stop right here. But what I want to show you is how to basically exponentially increase the value of your knowledge as you start to capture more and more notes And this kind of turns into a very interesting organizational system because, like I said, it's circular. It's not linear, which is one of the things that people get confused with. But if you think about the way that information is organized, your brain is a network, not a hierarchy. And so you don't open folders in your brain, you just know things. So that's why I say you should title your notes the way that you would title your thoughts. Where the titles start to become powerful in terms of your ability to generate knowledge is with bi-directional links. So what you've seen throughout this entire process is that I've basically been capturing bi-directional links. So while I was creating this video and just outlining it, I came up with this thought right here. It was like, oh, Mem lets you focus on content instead of structure, which is just some thought that occurred to me, but there's nothing in here. But I also know where it came from, what sparked it, and at some point I'll go back and fill it out. It doesn't really matter. When I want to find it, I will be able to find it because this is just a thought that occurred to me. And so if you title your notes the way you title your thoughts, you're going to have a hell of a lot of easier time finding them. And so what you'll be able to do by doing this is to just capture ideas as they occur to you, as I mentioned. And that's where bidirectional links start to just exponentially increase the value of what your knowledge is. Because even though there's nothing in here, you had that thought for a reason, and that thought could develop later on. And that's the thing. You're able to just capture ideas right as they occur to you and then go develop them when they're ready. What you're effectively doing is you're connecting something new to something that's already inside of the database. You're connecting what you know to what you learn. It just starts to compound. As you add more and more notes, you'll start to see this effectively starts to look like what Google's PageRank is in terms of how it organizes information for your own brain. And so you'll see things whenever you need to see them. You'll find them whenever you need to find them just by having a good title. And the title basically makes all the things that you can do with bidirectional links possible. In fact, now you'll see this in action. I just had that thought and I thought, okay, you know what, that might be a good note in of itself. So I can say a good title makes all the things you can do Okay, so I basically just had this thought, right? And even as I had this thought, it got me thinking about just revising the module in my course, and that will probably be part of this. So uh, anyway, so you'll notice that I had that thought while I was recording this video. I captured it in a link, and I know exactly what it was about because it was titled exactly as my thoughts. But I linked it into this. And that's where linking starts to first be part of your organizational structure, is that you're just able to capture things and be able to know where they came from. So that's one sort of thought process around this, is just free flow capture and you're good. I would put that at the first level of bidirectional links. Now, let's say that you wanted to do something with all those links. For example, maybe write a blog post, maybe organize a project. So a couple of days ago, I wanted to figure out how to get 50 or so leads to our How to Take Smart Notes course. So basically what I did was I created this project plan, and you can see here, this project plan really has not a lot in it, okay? But let's say, for example, that we wanted to be able to access everything for this project on SmartNotes for, just from this one page. That's where links would come in to be useful. So for example, I know what I titled this thing. It was landing page, copy How to Take Smart Notes version 2, just pops up. And I can say, okay, these are my resources, How to Take Smart Notes, webinar recording, maybe there's something there that I can use. I also know that I wrote a landing page for something else that could have been useful for this. Oh, I know what it was. It was the list of swipe pages links. So my landing page for building a second brain in Mem on the swipe pages site. So I have the URL there, for example. Or, okay, so it's not URL, it's just copy for it. What you're starting to see is that you start to basically just put this together as a place to just hold your thoughts, and then you can start to organize them. But let's actually do a project from scratch, because I think that will be a bit more useful.
to see. So let's just say, for example, that we're going to put together a project, and we're going to call this custom or done for you AI second brain, where I'll help you build an artificially intelligent second brain using MEM or something like that. So this could be a project that could say, okay, this is going to be the next thing that I'm going to offer in my business. So I'm going to just put this new project template together, and then I'm going to just start looking for links related to this. So I can say, okay, you know what? I probably have the original done for you second brain. So I've got a done for you PKM thing. So I can get all my things related to the original version of whatever it is. And then I can basically say, okay, you know what? I'm going to see if there are any other notes on second brain. I could do that via search if I wanted to, since the bidirectional link isn't working. But the other thing I could do is just put together any sort of things that I know that I have related to this business, maximize your output. So the other thing is, so this is where links start to become useful, because of the fact that we can say, okay, what are the things that are worthwhile for this? I can see here that I've got a bunch of different stuff related to AI that might be useful. And I know that I'm writing a book about AI that's over here. So I can start to basically, just based on the title, say, okay, you know what, which one of these notes would actually be a useful note for linking into this one mem, so I can just run the entire project from this one place. And that takes us back to why your titles are so important, is because of the fact that's what allows you to easily group things together. A good title is pretty much the key that makes everything else possible inside of mem. Now you can see that basically what we're doing here is I'm just going through this, and it's not flawless. I'm not just flying through it, but I can quickly just, start to add things. And then I can also go to these other pages and see what else might have been linked to them, that could be useful for my done for you second brain project. So I can be like, all right, what do we got here? Okay, so I have a conversation I had with a friend about, potentially doing a second brain. I have client stuff related to done for you second brain. And then I've got my table of contents and other projects related to this. So again, you're seeing something here that basically is just this circular thought process in terms of how the rabbit hole goes. Like, you're just following your thought process. Okay, what else could be useful here? But in some cases, we might be much more clear on what we wanted to do in terms of organizing. So let's, do something as simple as writing a blog post. So I'm going to write a blog post about whatever comes to mind. So I got 3 AI-related creative projects I've been working on. So I know for a fact that I just wrote this ChatGPT post on creating this parody of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay. So I know I could use that to help me fill this out. And what else? I've got a bunch of other notes on AI because I'm writing this book. I can just say AI gives the power of scalability to the masses. AI Studio, and then create the speed of thought, like a couple of different things here. What you can see here is now, in order to get this blog post started, I'm literally just grabbing different notes that are in the database that might be useful for us to write this blog post on AI. And I could basically come back to this whenever. So now I've got 3 or 4 notes here. So this is where tags come in. So this is the final piece of this. And you'll see here why this hierarchy is the way that it is. So, for example, I know that this is probably going to be a blog post, and I usually just tag it blog post idea, because I just use 2 tags. One is for indicating which project it might be related to and what aspect of that project it's related to. So you might be saying, okay, why do I not use links for these things? And here's why. See, the thing is that links are great when you are going to have something very specific where you group things together to basically do something like write this blog post. They're great for putting notes together in a way where you embed them in sentences, but you might have things where they're just big categories. So for example, if you click on this tag blog post idea, you can see there's just endless amounts of them. So for me to create a page where I say, hey, I should put a blog post idea here, I would have to literally link every one of these. And that's completely unnecessary because there's so many of them that just by using a tag, I basically can do this. So what I would say is tags are what you want to use for big categories of information. And you'll see this again. So I just had this thought about that. And that's a note that has nothing in it. And so you're seeing this basically happening at the same time. I'm capturing a thought that I had while I'm organizing something at the same time, all in one note. So basically, in a lot of ways, you could say that what happens inside of mem is the process of capture and organize effectively merge because organize becomes unnecessary. Now you're seeing, because there's so many of these things, there's no reason. So for example, for books, I have probably hundreds of mems that are tagged as books because I've got so many book notes in here. So yes, could I create a page where I have all my books linked from one place? Absolutely. But that's unnecessary when you have such large categories of information. So this video, for those of you who have managed to stick through it, I know it's been all over the place. That's probably by design, because I think that honestly is really the best demonstration in my mind to show you how I think about organizing information in mem, was to just walk you through how I'm actually doing work in mem and use this video itself as an example of the process of what happens when you're capturing and organizing information in mem. So hopefully this has been useful. In a lot of ways, I think this overlaps with the idea of next week's video on using your notes, but you got a glimpse in terms of organizing projects. So next week, what we'll do is I will show you how to connect like big groups of notes together to do something like write a blog post.